Hey guys, and welcome back. Today we're going to be working on the underside of the Chevelle. And I started working on this, off and on here and there, getting some of this gunk off of here and getting it down to metal so I can see what I'm working with. And I cut the rear the rear floor out. And thought I'd share with you guys where I'm at so far. So here we go. It's the underside. As you can see over here, I started taking it down to metal. Let me get some edge primer on that so it doesn't flash. And just, scraping all the undercoating off because it's going to get recoated. Just took a cutoff wheel and zipped around so I can start working on these little seamed areas. And when I was back here, I found this cross member, which I guess I didn't realize there was another cross member back here. Let me get my camera right. So normally this thing, I guess, sits right here and supports the trunk floor sitting on it, and frame rests right here. So it's a rear body to frame cross member. So this guy was just held on up here with, a couple booger welds, and I guess the previous guy had taken a trunk from another floor, or a trunk floor from another car, and kind of, welded it in there to use what he had. I don't know. So same color, this kind of matches. And then I saw this little guy is just nice and rusted through, so I was gonna just reform that with some new metal and, cut back and weld in some angle to that, kind of make it so it's one solid piece again. And then I was gonna put this cross member back over it, and then I decided, I'm gonna order one just because this one, I don't know if I can trust it. But in looking at this, I'm pretty sure when you hold them side by side, they're the exact same piece, just, one has more of it left than the other. Holes mount, angles mount, or angles match. Can't talk today. So I'm wondering if when this guy took his floor and put in here, if he didn't just put another cross member and, because that one's not really there, and just put it over top. And that's why none of this was ever welded together in there. So that's interesting. So I'm guessing I can take this and, clean up the edges, and it's not really too bad and rusty except for on the sides, but I can rebuild that metal up and, repair on some of this stuff, because that's going to need to get replaced. Some package stuff, I can treat that with Osfo, and then zap that guy back in here and not have to buy another cross member. And I'm gonna have to figure out a way to pull this floor down, and I can bzz that in place, and it'll be all set up for my floor pan to just sit right up against it. So next thing is getting all these little flanges, I guess, out. I cut this cross member, brace, whatever, in half. Just kind of ran the cutoff wheel down it, because I'm gonna undo the spot welds, and it's hard to film. I'm gonna undo the spot welds all the way down, and I'm just gonna take this side of it off, and that way I have a nice smooth surface, which I still have metal floorboard on the back side of it, and I can set my floor pan up in there, because it gives you a little lip, but I don't know how much it's going to give me. Depending on the pan, it could be a little bit or a lot, depending on who makes it. So I'm going to get all these trimmed out so I can just set the panel in there. It's got a 90-degree break here, so it should sit against this, and it's got a 90-degree break, as you can see right here. It kind of butts up against this wheelhouse, and then I can clamp it up here, tech screw it or something, and then kind of clamp it in place. And then when it's up against here, I'll put some clecos in there, and then I can cut and make my lines perfect. I can get all that in there, and then this other side off, and then put this brace in. I was just going to do the ends down there where they were all nasty, but as I get into these insides of these, you can see it, just gross and disgusting on there. I'm trying to think, I got one right here. I mean, it's not bad, but I'm already down this far, and I got the whole thing I might as well just replace it all, you know, so I know it's good and fresh and it's coated with that e-coat crap on there, and I'll spray something in there and it'll be good for another 30 years. So start working my way back. Um, as I'm going, I'll patch. I got started rusting around. Some of these are, oh, that's my finger. Some of these are like where I drilled through because my spot weld driller guy is crapped out and my new one hadn't come yet. So some of them are drilled, but some of them are just like rusted around where the braces meet. I don't know why that would accumulate right there, but something got that where it wanted to rust. And I got some junk around these seat mounts and things. So this one's, where's that? Right there is pretty bad too. So I don't know what's going on with that, but I'm going to cut all that out. And then as I expose that metal behind it, I will replace these pieces, put some fresh metal over it, and then kind of work my way that way. I didn't want to buy a whole new inner rocker because I thought they were pretty good, you know. Got some pieces to replace here and there, but probably might have been a better idea to do a whole rocker since I'm going down this far. My main concern was to remove all of the braces to get to the rockers. That means I'm removing the floor structure and it's on its side, so it's kind of supporting itself, and I didn't want to do that. So I'm going to do it the hard way and patch in all this bad stuff. You can see it's kind of pitted. I might be able to treat some of that, but since I'm already down in here, I think I'm just gonna you know, cut back to where it's not pitted and make a big square and an angle, and you know, call it a day. Just rebuild the car one small piece of metal at a time, because I guess that's what I'm supposed to do here. So I'm gonna get to it, and I'll bring you guys back in a minute. All right, we got most of this patched up. Got the under rear seat panel sitting in place. Pretty close. Gonna do some hammering on it. Just saw this though. There's 4 layers of metal on this joint here. There's this package tray divider wall thing comes down. There's a floor reinforcement. There's supposed to be the trunk floor, and then there's the, where I put it, little cross member that goes on there. So this was someone's idea of a easy replacement for the trunk floor. You can see they kind of just, I don't know how they did that on the back there, but they got the trunk floor in. Oh, I see. Came across here and cut all that out. All right. So they put this bottom part in, but when they cut it out, they cut it, I don't know, used a pair of scissors or something, and it just looks really weird. This is where the cross member bolts to right there. So that's going to be all covered up once I get the cross member on. However, I want to tie this in so this trunk floor, doesn't do wobbly things. So I didn't go an hour and a half down to my local steel supply because it's way too far. So I went to the Depot of Homes and just got some little angle iron, and I'm just gonna, do some of that in there to pick up the load of that floor, because I know I'm gonna be putting probably stuff that I probably shouldn't be in the trunk, like I always do. So I'll make sure that's strong. And I'll weld it all nice along the bottom here and get it covered in some primer, and then there we go. Get this cross member back on there. Just gotta clean this piece off, but it's getting there. Once I get that cross member in place, that'll give me this next little bit, that's next little piece of metal that goes here, and then this sandwiches up on there, so then I can, zip those together. And I think I got a decent fit. This is I think it's GM. I don't remember who makes this panel, but fits pretty good up here. I got some hammer and dolly work. I'm gonna suck that in a little bit. Of course, this is meant to sit on top of the rockers on the inside, and I'm doing it from the bottom, so your mileage may vary, if you will. I'm going to measure out on the inside how far in this little lip is, or I may just scribe right here and then measure in like 3/4 of that, and then cut it so that this sits on that lip, and I can tech screw it together and put some beads down here, and then I'll go on the inside and I'll weld that. Get caught on everything over here. So all in all, this panel fit pretty good. So I get that on, then I can throw on the next brace right there. And I didn't measure my spacing. I forgot to mark that down there where it goes like left to right spacing. So I'm gonna have to use the frame off of some reference point. I'll probably use these center of these body mount bushing holes, and then get my left to right measurement off of that. But first I gotta, first I gotta fix all this rust, because the inner rocker is just not there. And I got all this patched up. This was a hole right in here, and there was another layer on the inside, and then another layer on this side, and there was a dead mouse carcass in there that I pulled out. So that's probably for weight reduction or sound deadening. Anyway, yep, this one's coming along, and I'll check back in when I get it ready to zip it in place. There she is. Angle iron in there. Give it some strength. Going to get all seam sealed from the bottom, and the holes from the top will get filled with the cross member, but it's not wobbling around anymore. The whole package shelf thing isn't doing this, and or should have enough support on the back to hold itself up. Now let's get the cross member in. All right, here we are. The under seat panel is in place. The rear cross member is in place. I got the tech screws in the, rear cross member, other rear, this guy. And looks pretty straight. Took my measurements off of the front here, from there to there on the frame, between these two frame mounting holes. and I'm at 33 1/4 between them on the frame. So I matched them up onto here. Everything seems to fit decently. One thing I did mess up was my layering over here. So the floor pan goes in, and then this cross member is supposed to go over that, because this is where the body mount bushing sits. So that's supposed to be flat, but I have this little lip here now, so I'm sure that'll squish with the polyurethane. If not, I can notch it or something with a little file or something to make that work, but live and learn. Supposed to drill and spot weld these little guys, which I did along here, but since it's holding my kids' butts, I wanted to make sure that it's in there solid, so I stitched around and seam welded most of it. Conveniently, this brace, with the way these panels line up, covers that seam, so if I had done this, plug welded here and stacked these correctly, you probably never would have known that was replaced. So yeah. Next is to get this burnt in. I'm probably going to do a combination of plug welds here, where I've put my little self tappers in here to suck this down in there, and some stitches along there as well. You can't really see it, but there's a little bit of a gap, maybe a 1/16 or so on either side. So I'm just going to suck the floor into that. Obviously, with prying it out, it twisted the floor up a little bit, hammered and dollied it a little bit, but it's needs to be perfect for me. I don't want gaps like the factory one had. So yep, that's where I'm at on this. This has been a rear under seat pan replacement. Not necessarily the way that everyone should do it, but this is the way it worked for me. If you got any questions, let me know. And thanks for watching. Do the whole subscribe and like thing if it's helped you at all, and see you next time.